Judas's kiss still lingers in my mind, and now The Chosen Season 6 is about to show us what happens next. The moment the soldiers step forward, the disciples' world shatters. Everything they thought they knew about loyalty, friendship, and faith is thrown into chaos. And now, with the first trailer and leaked behind-the-scenes details finally out, we're seeing just how intense Episode 1 is going to be. This isn't just another season opener, it's the beginning of the end. The road that will lead straight to the Crucifixion. From secret filming locations in Italy to emotional moments that had the cast in tears. We're about to break down everything we know. And believe me, if you thought Season 5 was emotional, what's coming next will stay with you forever. Asterisk, the first episode of The Chosen Season 6 will not give us a moment to breathe. It begins exactly where Season 5 left off, Judas stepping back after the kiss, the soldiers closing in, and the disciples standing in shock. The trailer doesn't waste time. We see the raw emotions, Peter's fury, John's disbelief, and the silent heartbreak that spreads across the group as the truth sets in. Judas was one of them. He walked with them, ate with them, laughed with them, and now he's the one who has set everything in motion. From leaked production details, we know that the confrontation between Peter and Judas will be one of the most explosive moments early in the episode. And this isn't just about anger, it's about betrayal on the deepest possible level. Peter's words will cut, but Judas's responses will show a man already consumed by his choice, even if he doesn't want to admit it. Once the soldiers take hold of Jesus, we're thrown into an entirely different kind of tension. The streets of Jerusalem are alive with whispers, shadows, and the growing murmur of a trial that everyone already knows the outcome of. The Sanhedrin has been waiting for this moment, and now the wheels are turning faster than ever. From leaked set photos, we know that the council chamber scenes are going to carry a heavy, suffocating atmosphere, long shadows, tense silences, and glances exchanged between men who know they are condemning someone without true justice. But in between the political plotting and public spectacle, we'll see the disciples scattered, trying to decide whether to fight, to follow, or to hide. Fear will grip them, but so will the urge to protect their teacher. The emotional weight is going to be immense, because this isn't just history. It's the breaking point for every single one of them. We've learned that Episode 1 will balance the political tension with deep, personal moments. Expect scenes where the disciples wrestle with their faith, wondering why God would allow this to happen. What's even more chilling is that Dallas Jenkins has chosen to highlight the silence between moments, the pauses where a character doesn't speak, but their eyes tell the whole story. This is where Jonathan Rumy's performance as Jesus will absolutely wreck us. Even in chains, he will carry both dignity and sorrow, fully aware of what's coming, but still showing compassion for those around him. From leaked descriptions, we know that there will be a powerful exchange between Jesus and Peter early on. A moment of reassurance that will be even more painful when we know how close Peter's own breaking point is. Filming for these sequences took place partly in Italy, and it's clear from everything we've heard that they wanted authenticity. That would make us feel like we're right there in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. The Italian town of Matera, with its ancient stone streets and timeless horizon, became the perfect backdrop. The leaked behind-the-scenes footage shows the cast walking through those narrow, worn streets in full costume. And it's haunting to think about what those scenes will look like once fully brought to life. And while the physical setting is stunning, it's the emotional setting that's going to make Episode 1 unforgettable. This is the episode where alliances shift, where friendships crack under the weight of fear, and where the first steps toward the crucifixion are taken. And knowing Dallas's style, it won't be about shock value, it will be about the human cost. He's not interested in splashing blood across the screen just for effect. He wants us to feel the betrayal, the loneliness, the quiet heartbreak. If the trailer is anything to go by, Episode 1 will be a slow burn of suspense, grief, and inevitability. Story where every look, every word, and every silence matters. And this is just the beginning. The road ahead is only going to get darker, and no one will come out of it unchanged. Asterisk, as the soldiers lead Jesus away under the torchlight, the streets seem to close in around him. The murmurs of the crowd grow louder, but no one steps forward to defend him. This is the part of the story where the betrayal feels heavier than the chains themselves, not just Judas's, but the quiet betrayal of silence from those too afraid to act. In the trailer, you can see the flicker of uncertainty in the disciples' faces. Some want to follow, others are frozen in place, and all of them are caught between loyalty to their teacher and fear for their own lives. That's what makes Episode 1 so powerful. Every decision feels final. Every step could change the future. From leaked set reports, We know that the confrontation between Peter and Judas will happen in a side street, away from the immediate chaos. It won't be some neat, scripted moment. It will be raw, desperate, and full of emotion. Peter's anger will come from love, from years of walking with Jesus and now seeing that trust shattered. Judas, on the other hand, will be defensive, maybe even trying to convince himself that what he's done is for some greater purpose. This scene is going to be one of those moments where you almost forget you're watching actors, because the performances will cut that deep. Meanwhile, Jesus is taken before Caiaphas, and this is where the political machinery of the Sanhedrin goes into overdrive. In the leaked behind-the-scenes footage, you can see the council members gathered in dim light, their faces half hidden in shadow, whispering and exchanging glances. This isn't about finding the truth, it's about sealing a fate. They've already decided. Dallas has a way of making these council scenes feel like a storm building in a closed room, quiet enough to make you lean in, but full of a dangerous, electric tension. What hits hardest in episode 1 is the isolation. Jesus, surrounded by hostile faces, doesn't fight, doesn't beg, and doesn't explain himself. Instead, there's a stillness in him, a calm that feels almost unbearable when you know what's coming. That contrast between the chaos of the accusers and the peace of the accused is going to stay with viewers long after the episode ends. Jonathan Rumi has always captured that quiet strength, but in these scenes, it's going to be magnified. The leaked descriptions talk about long, lingering shots where his eyes meet those of his accusers, and for a moment, it's like he sees straight into their hearts. But the emotional weight isn't just on Jesus. The disciples, now scattered, are each wrestling with guilt, anger, and disbelief. Some, like John, will be desperate to stay close, to witness what's happening no matter the danger. Others will feel the pull to hide, to protect themselves. This is where we start to see the fractures in the group, the cracks that fear can carve even in the strongest bonds. We've heard from interviews with the cast that these moments were some of the hardest to film, not because of the physical demands, but because of the emotional exhaustion of living in that tension, take after take. Elizabeth Tabish even mentioned how the cast would hold each other and pray between scenes just to get through it. What's striking about these leaked insights is how much care is being taken to focus on the emotional truth of the story. Dallas isn't rushing to the crucifixion, he's letting the weight of each step sink in. Episode 1 is about setting that tone, about making the audience feel the same pull between hope and despair that the disciples must have felt. You'll feel the dust of the streets, the heat of the torches, and the tightness in your chest as you realize there's no turning back now. By the end of the episode, the stage will be set, the lines drawn, and the heartbreak only just beginning. By the time night deepens over Jerusalem, the events of episode 1 have already shifted from betrayal to a dangerous momentum that no one can stop. The Sanhedrin's trial is not a search for truth, it is a public theater meant to humiliate and condemn. In the trailer, the fragments we see of this trial are enough to send chills down your spine. Caiaphas's sharp voice cutting through the tense air, the murmurs of the council members, the hollow echoes of false accusations. The leaked scene descriptions confirm that these moments will be stripped of any sense of fairness. Witnesses will be called, but their words twisted, and every question will be designed to trap Jesus rather than understand him. And yet, through all of it, Jesus remains calm. This isn't the calm of someone who doesn't care, it's the calm of someone who knows exactly what is coming and has already accepted it. From leaked behind-the-scenes whispers, we've learned that Jonathan Rumi approached these scenes with an intense focus, often staying silent between takes to keep the emotional weight intact. You can almost feel that in the trailer itself, where every glance and pause carries more meaning than an entire speech. This quiet strength is going to stand in stark contrast to the heated, frantic energy of his accusers. And that difference will make the injustice hit even harder. Outside the council chambers, Jerusalem is restless. The streets are not empty. They are alive with rumor. People are whispering about Judas's betrayal, some in disbelief, others in cold satisfaction. For the disciples, this is a nightmare unfolding in slow motion. Peter, in particular, becomes a figure torn between fury and helplessness. The leaks suggest we'll see him shadowing the events, staying close but never able to intervene without risking everything. His emotions will be written on his face: rage at Judas' fear for Jesus, and a creeping dread about what comes next. Judas, meanwhile, begins to feel the weight of his choice in ways he did not expect. In the leaked script, fragments circulating online, there's a moment, small, almost easy to miss, where Judas overhears the way the council speaks about Jesus. And for a brief second, you can see regret flicker in his eyes. But it's too late. That's one of the heartbreaking truths episode 1 will drive home. Once the betrayal is set in motion, there is no undoing it. Luke Dimyon, who plays Judas, has been praised for his ability to balance defiance and inner turmoil. And if these leaks are accurate, this episode will be his most complex performance yet. The disciples are not the only ones watching. From what little has been shared officially, Mary Magdalene will be present in the shadows during some of these events. Her eyes fixed on Jesus, her posture tense with both devotion and dread. Though not heavily featured in the trailer, her presence in the leaks suggests that she will be one of the emotional anchors in the first episode, reminding us that this isn't just a story about men and political power, it's about the people, whose lives were forever changed by Jesus' presence. And while all of this is unfolding in the city, the atmosphere builds towards something even darker. The leaks talk about the way the episode uses sound, distant footsteps, muffled voices, the clink of chains to create a sense of inevitability. You're not just watching events happen, you're feeling them close in, like the walls of Jerusalem are drawing tighter with every passing hour. By the time the night ends, the disciples will be fractured. Judas will be walking a path he cannot return from, and Jesus will be standing in the shadow of a fate that everyone knows but no one can stop. This is why episode 1 will feel unlike any opening of The Chosen we've seen before. It's not about easing you back into the story, it's about plunging you straight into the heart of it, where loyalty, fear, and prophecy collide. And the way Dallas Jenkins is shaping it, every second is meant to keep you leaning forward, your chest tight, knowing that the darkest days are still ahead. Asterisk, as dawn approaches, the atmosphere in Jerusalem shifts. The cool stillness of night gives way to the heavy heat of a morning that feels wrong, like the city itself knows something terrible is coming. Episode 1 captures this change in a way that's more than visual. It's in the pacing, in the way. Every movement feels deliberate, like the slow turn of a wheel you can't stop. The trailer gives us flashes of this soldiers moving through narrow streets, a crowd beginning to gather, the Sanhedrin's members leaving their chambers with the self-satisfaction of men who believe they've already won. From the leaks, we know that Dallas Jenkins has chosen to linger on these transitions, letting the audience sit in the unease instead of rushing to the next moment. Peter's storyline in this episode becomes even more urgent here. We've heard from set sources that his confrontation with Judas earlier in the night is only part of his emotional arc. What follows is the gnawing frustration of being powerless to change what's happening. He follows at a distance, slipping between shadows, keeping Jesus in sight whenever possible. But this distance is both physical and emotional. Every step closer to the high priest's court feels like a step toward failure. The leaked production notes hint at moments where Peter's faith wavers, not because he doubts who Jesus is, but because he can't understand why God is allowing this to happen. These are subtle moments, but they will resonate deeply with viewers who have ever questioned their own endurance in the face of despair. Inside the court, the trial scene is winding toward its inevitable conclusion. The accusations grow sharper, the voices louder, false witnesses contradict each other, but no one cares. This is about sealing the verdict, not finding truth. In the leaked descriptions, there's a chilling detail. A moment when Jesus is asked a question and the silence that follows stretches unbearably long before he answers. That silence will speak louder than any defense could. Jonathan Rumi's ability to let a single pause carry the weight of the world is going to make this scene unforgettable. And then, in a detail confirmed by both the trailer and the leaks, comes the breaking point. The high priest declaring that Jesus' words are blasphemy. The council erupts, the decision made. The verdict is not a surprise to anyone watching, but the way it's delivered will still feel like a blow to the chest. The scene doesn't end with shouting, it ends with a quiet, calculated exchange of looks among the leaders. A reminder that this is only the first step toward the crucifixion. Meanwhile, Judas's journey through this morning is one of increasing isolation in the leaked footage. There's a striking image of him alone in a narrow alleyway. The sounds of the city behind him, but no one beside him. He's out of place, no, not among the disciples, not truly among the leaders he's helped. That in-between state is going to define him in this episode. And Luke Dimyon's portrayal is set to make audiences wrestle with the complexity of his choices. What makes this section of episode 1 so gripping is how it shifts the tension from immediate shock to a deeper, more lingering dread. The betrayal has happened, the trial is moving forward, but now we start to feel the weight of what's coming next. The crucifixion is no longer just a prophecy, it's a destination, and every character is being pulled toward it, whether they want to go or not. And through it all, Dallas keeps the focus where it matters most. on the humanity of the people living through it. The soldiers are not faceless villains, they're men following orders. The leaders are not shouting caricatures, they're calculating figures driven by fear and politics. The disciples are not perfect heroes, they're scared, flawed people trying to hold on to faith in a moment when faith feels hardest. By grounding the story in these human truths, Episode 1 ensures that when the emotional hits land, they land hard. By the time this section of the story ends, we're left in a tense, unbearable pause, the kind that makes you realize that the worst hasn't even begun. And when that realization settles in, it's impossible not to feel the same tightening in your chest that the disciples must have felt, knowing that the man they've followed is now walking straight toward his death. The final stretch of Episode 1 isn't about explosive action, it's about inevitability. Once the council reaches its verdict, the camera doesn't rush away. Instead, it lingers on Jesus being led out of the high priest's chambers, the torchlight flickering against stone walls, casting shadows that seem to stretch ahead like a road he's meant to walk. From the leaks, we know this moment is crafted with almost painful slowness. Every footstep echoes, and in that sound, there's a sense that the next chapters of this story are already written. The soldier's grip on his arms is firm, but not brutal. They don't need to drag him. He walks under his own strength, which somehow makes it even harder to watch. Outside, the city is waking. Merchants are opening their stalls, children are running through the streets, and most of them have no idea that history is being decided just a few steps away. This contrast between normal life and the monumental events unfolding behind closed doors is something Dallas Jenkins has leaned into heavily. The leaked production notes suggest that these quiet, ordinary moments are there to remind us that life keeps moving, even in the shadow of tragedy. For viewers, it's a subtle but haunting detail because we know what's coming. And they don't. Peter and John, still lurking at a distance, catch sight of Jesus as he's moved toward the next stage of the trial. In one of the more emotionally charged, leaked moments, Peter nearly steps forward to intervene, his hand twitching toward his sword. But John stops him. There's no dramatic struggle, just a silent, pained understanding between the two men that this is a path they cannot alter. The helplessness in this moment is going to resonate deeply, especially with fans who have followed Peter's fiery, impulsive nature since Season 1. Judas, meanwhile, is nowhere near the trial. Leaked descriptions point to him wandering through the streets, clutching the bag of silver like it's both a prize and a curse. His face is pale, his expression vacant, as if the full weight of what he's done is only now settling in. This is not the gloating traitor so often portrayed in popular media. This is a man unraveling in real time. If the leaks are accurate, there's a gut-wrenching sequence where he passes by a group of disciples without approaching them, choosing instead to disappear into the crowd. That choice to remain unseen is almost more heartbreaking than if he had faced them outright. The episode closes not with a single dramatic line, but with a look. Jesus, surrounded by soldiers, glances briefly toward where Peter and John are hidden. It's not a long stare, just enough for them to know he sees them. No words pass between them, but the message is clear. He knows they're there. He knows they care. And he's still choosing to walk forward. The screen fades before we see where he's taken, leaving us in a suspended moment between betrayal and crucifixion. From a storytelling perspective, this is where Dallas Jenkins is at his best. The tension isn't in wondering what will happen. We already know. The tension is in watching how it happens, in feeling the weight of each choice, each silence, each step. Episode 1 isn't about resolution, it's about setting the stage for the heartbreak and triumph that will follow. By the time the credits roll, you won't be left with relief or closure. You'll be left with a knot in your stomach, a racing pulse, and the heavy knowledge that the most difficult scenes are still ahead. And that's exactly what makes this opening episode unforgettable. It doesn't try to give you comfort, it gives you truth. The truth of betrayal, the truth of fear, the truth of unwavering purpose in the face of certain death. And as you sit there, processing what you've just seen, you'll realize the season has only just begun and you're already emotionally invested beyond escape.